So Mr. Jason Wedekind is our guest today, and he is in Denver, Colorado, and we have a treat that we have a double header or a twofer with Jason and with Rick Griffith, who is also on this call. So today we're going to have Jason, and he's going to show us around his shop, and he's going to show us some printing, and we're going to follow up with Rick Griffith tomorrow, also a Denver print and design shop. So like I said, we've got Jason, and he does both design and commercial letterpress. So I'm going to hand it over.
All right. Sorry, 1 second here. Technical difficulty number 1. Everybody can hear me? All right. So thank you. Everybody can hear me, no echoes, right? Thank you, Stephanie. Thanks for the introduction. I thought I'd start. So Stephanie introduced us.
I don't know where I am.
The official name of our company changed to Genghis Kern Design and Letterpress. So I'm a graphic designer. I started printing like 13 years ago, thanks to Tom Parson. And I'm going to show you guys the shop, talk about some work. We're going to print on our large cylinder press. Anybody can stop and ask questions as I'm awkwardly fumbling through the next hour. And let's see if this will work. So I'm going to switch over to my portable studio tour feed. Right. Why can't I see? Oh, here we go. Okay. Slow start here. Everybody. Oh, so Stephanie, does everybody see me?
Yeah, so I'm going to make Jason big so you can all see his on your screen.
And now you can hear me talk on the mic.
Yes,
cool.
We can hear you talk.
So there's my face, which you don't need to see. And then, see, I'm not hearing you guys, which is kind of weird, but I get it. You're listening. So we are in a co-working space. Genghis Kern is housed inside of the co-working space that I own. So about 5 years ago, I moved out of my home office, and 7 years ago, moved out of the home office to our first shared office space and started graphic designing and printing. And then our lease was up after a couple of years, and we ended up trying to find a place to put the presses and the computers all in one place. And I modeled this actually after Rick's space. If anyone has been in Denver at Rick's space, he's got the design area upstairs and the press is downstairs. So for the last 13 years, I've been printing out of my garage. You guys should just be seeing my face here, sorry. We'll get through this. So you guys, so I've been printing out of my garage forever. And then I moved the design firm out of my house into a space. And then I hired my first pressman, which was kind of crazy. He would actually sit in my garage, and if he had to go to the bathroom, he'd have to go into my house and pee while I was working on the computer 5 blocks away. So 5 years ago, I found this building, and Jeff Shepherd, who some of you know, was working with me at the time. And so we ended up building out this place for our presses and our little design firm. And I wanted to kind of chase the energy of an agency, because I was an art director in an agency for a long time. So I have all these random people, if they're listening, they're not random, that office with me in here. And so when we started this, the place is called Furniture Creative Co-working. And so they sold furniture. These lamps were actually for sale in here. Stop me if it gets a little Blair Witchy. But this place, and Jeff was actually like, why don't we call the place Furniture, with the letterpress tie-in? So the rest was history. And I wanted to get a large piece of letterpress art. And I ended up reaching out to the Graphica Fidalga guys and saying, hey, will you send me X amount of feet? And that's a whole nother story for another day. But I sent Stephanie a link. If you haven't seen the Graphica Fidalga Cool Hunting video, you got to check it out because it is one of the coolest things ever. So we're starting the tour. Oh, here's our books. I know a lot of the typographers in here. It is so, whoops. When people chat, it takes over my screen. It's so unorganized, but so inspirational over here. Do like Draplin. So now I'm walking to the press room. Here's my messy office. Jen Farrell's print that came in the mail. Sorry, let me grab my computer. And then punk kid, homeschooling. You know what I wanted to say? Like, everybody knows tomorrow Rick's coming. Oh, geez, Rick, how did you get here? Not seeing people's reactions is kind of killing me. There's my Hamilton poster, which we walk in and get inspired by every day. And then this is the great entrance to the press room. I would have never thought of this when I designed the space, the architect I work with, but it's so cool. There's Rick Von Holt's type at work. I need like anti-shake stuff. Sorry, guys. This too shall pass. What I should do, everybody's cool, right? So now we get into the press room. So we gutted this building and put in the actual windows because I wanted old school factory style steel windows. And these windows actually the architect had taken them out of a brewery project. So he gave me those and we rebuilt them with double pane glass. And the amount of light that comes in here, fresh sunlight, is just amazing. And the lights are actually from a motorcycle shop. They're all antique. So this is where it all kind of happens. So now's the tour area. Here's the CMP that I started printing on, thanks to Tom Parson 13 years ago.
What's the patent size on that?
Who's now 15, standing in front of the press. I'm not wearing the same clothes as that picture today. Then I picked up an Asburn from Lonnie Smith. Shit, I meant to do this sideways. Sorry, guys. Nobody texted me that. The Asburn, if everybody knows what an Asburn is, it's a clone of a Vandercook. And the main difference between a Vandercook and an Asburn, if you know, is the Asburn has a movable cylinder, which I thought was the coolest thing until I realized, see the gear that causes the travel is right here. It's really tiny. Then when you look at the Vandercook, the gear that causes the travel is huge. This thing takes 5 cranks. That thing takes 2.5. This is Jeff Shepards' press. So when Jeff came on as an employee, like a little over 5 years ago, the coolest thing was, I'm trying to follow through mentally. Started with the CMP, then the Asburn, then I got the windmill so that I could actually safely hire somebody. I met Jeff. He was working as a printer at another print shop in town, and he told me, I've got a windmill in my mom's garage. So this is Jeff's windmill. Ooh, that's much better. This is Jeff's windmill. My windmill has foil on it, which Jeff is a foil master. So here's well, I'll get into the wall of shame. Jeff designed that poster for the depot. And that's one of the reasons I hired him. I just love that poster. I was like, that's so cool. So started printing on the CMP, picked up the Asburn, Blair Witch and everybody. There's Type Alley. We've got some Iraq lead type and then a bunch of wood type. Every piece of wood, everybody's wood type has its own stories. I can tell you one quick one as we ooh and ah. Oh, there's another one. So I picked up 6 cases of page type probably 4 years ago from a printer that was retiring and hiking the Appalachian Trail. And then 4 years later, a local guy that was Jeff's old boss was he was downsizing. And I went through his type. He gave me first crack at all of his type. And I was like, hey, I kind of have a face that looks like that and that and that and that. And so I had this 3A ultra condensed page type, and the guy had the extra part of the alphabet. Now, I had never taken stock of the type. I just knew that every time I went to spell a word, I had what I needed. But so 6 of my faces of page type actually got more complete, which was amazing. Like that doesn't, so however, 30 years ago, the faces split up by case and they were reunited. So it's like stuff like this. Isn't that crazy? That could be a zoom on just showing type drawers. And then from the same guy, we picked up this crazy type high stuff, which is the same used or very similar to used in Globe's print shop, but I think theirs is a different color. I heard Allison's on, she can chime in. So this is like, part of it looks pantograph carved, but then a lot of it looks hand carved. But we've got a ton of this linoleum type mounted. Kind of fun. So
that's actually rubber vulcanized onto plywood.
Oh, what was that?
Rubber vulcanized into plywood.
Oh, yes. I'm total whack-a-mole in here. While we're over here, this is the first twofer I ever got in my collection. And it's an ampersand with a Christmas card on the back of it, which you guys can see. And I sent this, I put this in the APA bundle, and John Horn said it was the best example of back carving he had ever seen. He's on here. He can say yay or nay. So, the other thing is we have 3,000 zincs of basically a life of a printer in Denver. Like yellow hands, sweet, Jason. Which is kind of fun. And check this out. I'm going to have Cellini work with these 2 guns in holsters. Kind of fun. All right. So, then we'll get into the brayer. So, the origin story kind of comes full circle with this Morgan sign press. A buddy of mine sent me a Craigslist link. Should I go FaceTime on this? I'll do this. Ooh, look at that. All right. A buddy of mine shared a Craigslist post, and it was a printing press, a 9x12. The woman didn't know what she had, but it said it was 10 inches tall. I look really good. It said it was 10 inches tall. And I put it on let press, and I said, I wanted a Vandercook Zero like Tom Parson had for proofing. And I put it on let press, and I said, hey, would anyone want me to buy this and trade me for a Vandercook Zero? What I didn't realize was the 12-inch height was because it was sitting on a type cabinet with, if you guys have seen the little type case. And so I put this out to let press, which at that time was thousands of people. And Leonard Moberg, old Denver guy, goes, that's what you want, you fool. And I was like, ah. And so I bought it from this woman, and I get this thing. And since then I've lost the cover, which is very unlike me, but those of you that know Line of Scribes, it was made in Chicago, Illinois. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. And I sent my dad a picture of this thing, and it had a couple of brayers on it. And my dad goes, I'll be damned, I made this thing. And I was like, what? And so my family has a 98-year-old manufacturing company in Chicago that makes decorating tools. And my dad made this in the 50s. And he knows that because of this little spot welded guard. So my first couple trips to Hamilton, I used to scour the brayer sections when they were unorganized pre-move. Now it's a lot easier. And I can see my family's tools. And how that factors in, I've told this story so many times, but how it factors in is my first time printing with Tom Parson. I was standing in front of the CMP here, And Tom taught me how to make photopolymer plates, which he does still in his sink. Taught me to make the plates from scratch. It was my design business card. He showed me how to set the plates up on the press and start printing. And he had a treadle on his CMP, and he started kicking. And I was like, Tom, can I do that? And this was 15, 16 years ago. And he was like, sure. So I started kicking, and I printed 600 business cards in like 40 minutes. And he was like, how the hell do you know how to do this? And I was like, oh, funny. I used to work as a kid in my family factory, like every day we didn't have school. And I would sit on an old kick press, an iron kick press. And let's see if I can, because you guys need visuals. I'm sitting down. I would sit on this kick press, and my dad would set up the machine, and I would put this metal ferrule on this wooden handle. Metal ferrule, wooden handle. I would sit there and kick an iron kick press, and you can't see my hands. And I would do that for about a week. And then my dad would change the machine, and I would put a U-frame on here, and I would drive the handle into the frame. I would do that for another week. And then the last step was putting on a wooden roller. It was a seam roller for wallpaper. So I would put that wooden roller on there, and I'd drive a pin through it. So when I saw this from the woman that I bought it from, I knew it looked like a seam roller for what that my family made, but I didn't realize that my dad actually made it. So I got to tell that story to my 93-year-old grandma right before she passed away. It was pretty epic. And that is how I got into letterpress, really. I remember driving home. So Tom Parson is our godfather of letterpress. So I met him. I said, oh, I want to do this. And he puts your name on a list. He still has the list, I'm pretty sure. And then when a press comes up, he goes to the next name on the list. So I was at my design job, and I had already done like 3 jobs with Tom printing. And the phone rings, and they're like, hey, Jason, it's Tom. And I was like, this is it, people. I'm getting a press today. And Tom's like, hey, where'd you get that paper? I was like, it wasn't the day. But he called 3 days later, and there was a print shop going out of business. And I ended up picking up, so I picked up the CMP, that composing stone, and this green rack of type. And that was I remember driving with the type cases in the back of my car, banging around, going like, I don't even know if I like this. What did I do? And I came home and, hey, honey, we bought a printing press. What? And so that's kind of how I got to presenting to you guys today. So, yeah, then we'll segue into the other finds in the shop, which were pretty sweet. So Jeff and I started, so Jeff had so I bought a windmill. So my garage had my windmill, my paper cutter, my CMP, and my Asburn in it. We started building out the space for 2 windmills, because Jeff had a windmill. And then Lonnie Smith came over and goes, hey, Jeff, did you see that Vandercook for sale on the western slope? So Jeff went on the front porch where the internet worked and bought this Vandercook like from 3 hours away, and they delivered it. This is a number 4, which is what he learned at the Center for the Book in San Francisco, which is pretty cool. So then you guys see this big poster wall here, a little wall of inspiration that actually a lot of you on the call are probably on it. Before I had the space built, my dream was to cover up all of our garbage. So actually, way better reveal on the other side. Sorry. Oh, still Blair Witching you. So basically, those sliding doors guide you visually from all the garbage that you need, or not garbage, all the stuff that makes us make a living, which is our ink and paper. So we actually have these things somewhat organized. You can see like B3 up there. So, and down here, like, this is C5. So we keep all of our paper. Like having an inventory and actually using it was pretty clutch. And then our ink, which is kind of fun. But then we can just slide this away, and voila. Should give everybody a close up of all the stuff up here. Slide it away, and it looks almost clean. fun story here. See the Langiro? We had our second printer's devil. We were doing a job for Coors, and they needed the original, and she set that. That was the first thing she ever printed. She set the Langiro, and I knew that it was wrong, but I had her print it, and I told her I'd make her famous. This is today, making her famous. I love it. All right. What else? Then, so I think we're done with the tour. Unless people have questions. Oh, plate maker is hiding back there. And this oversized monstrosity is what we use for duplexing paper. Does anybody have any questions before I get into phase 2? How are we doing on time? Sweet.
Good. About 40 minutes.
Can I jump in?
Hold on, a question.
What?
How did you get the presses? I'm assuming you're not on the first floor, Jason. You got a freight elevator?
Jim, nice. So we actually carved this hole in the wall here. Jim, that was an excellent plant question. We carved this hole in the wall here. Prior to that, this was just all solid brick. And this actually had like I wanted to keep it. It had like, you know, in the old days in the Westerns, when you would put a lock and bar your doors, like the door, because this was a really bad neighborhood here back in the 80s and 90s. But we hired a rigger. And so, I didn't talk about the cylinder. So while we were in the garage, Jeff grabs that Vandercook and he sends me a link to this cylinder that's on auction. And I'm like, dude, what are you looking at auction sites for? You don't need any more presses. But so I knew what a cylinder was from what I'd seen at Studio on Fire's work. But this was on a Boggs auction in Ohio. And I decided we needed one for the new shop because this place was like in studs. And so we ended up buying this thing, and I went to a place in Denver that had a press similar to this the next day. And I was like, hey, Todd, I did something stupid. And he goes, what? I'm like, I bought a cylinder. And he goes, you paid? And he told me the exact number I paid. Come to find out, I was bidding against him and Mary Mashburn, unbeknownst to me, for like 9 hours on a Tuesday. And we won this press. And it's like, it was in mint condition. It had never been die cut on. It came from Ohio. And Boggs told me, he was probably lying. He said an old married couple in Ohio was printing wood type on it. And I was like, I gotta have it. But so Jim, we ended up hiring a professional rigger, which was a first. I'd always done this sketchy guy. Go figure. I'd always had this sketchy rigger help me. And that's a whole nother Zoom call. But we ended up hiring a professional rigger. They went to Jeff's house and grabbed his windmill and a bunch of stuff. And then they went to get the cylinder, which was in storage 45 minutes away from there. And then they went to my house and they had 2 flatbeds with all this stuff. And all we have access, there's a loading dock here, but all we have for access is this dirt road. And Jeff calls me and he goes, the semis are here to unload. And he goes, we got a problem. And I'm like, what? Public Service dug an 8-foot deep hole right next to our alley and filled dirt so that we couldn't pull up the alley. And I was paying these dudes like $1,000 an hour or something crazy. So I walk up, I see the hole, I throw up instantly. And the guy's like, oh, what's up? I'm like, how long? He's like, 3 hours or so. And I'm like, that's not gonna work. But it ended up getting in there. So I have videos. They fit that cylinder through here with 2 inches to spare through these doors. It was crazy. We did almost drop it through this wooden floor. And then the wood floor has supports. We poured pylons and put jacks under all of the presses here. So sorry, I segued away into my crazy or more origin stories. So the cylinder's pretty badass. I've got a job fired up on there now for you guys that you'll see. We'll show you half of it today and half of it tomorrow. I was talking about my big wood type that stuff, that's what I printed for you guys. So I wanted to share with you one of our cylinder jobs, which is kind of cool. I'm missing a part of it, but you can see here, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I'm getting into the talk about the work period. But we do graphic design and letterpress printing. I'm having camera debate. So I'll just point at this and then I'll flip over to my face. But we do job printing in Denver. There's not a lot of letterpress job printers. So a soap company came to us back when we had just the windmills, and we ended up printing these soap boxes one at a time on the windmill. So if you guys can see that. And then she used to put a sticker for the UPC, a sticker for the ingredients, and a sticker for the flavor. Is the lighting okay there, guys? Okay enough?
Yeah, it's working good.
So we printed these on the windmill, and the impression she wanted, one up, almost broke the collar on it, which was never a good thing. So we did that. I think we printed like 1,000 or 3,000. And then once we got the big press, we told her we could do more. So we ended up printing them 6 up. And I thought you guys would find this interesting because I know not a lot of people like job print like this, but she tells me, so we printed them 6 up blanks for a year. We did 30,000. And then a year later, she said, I don't want to deal with the stickers anymore. Can you help me? And I'm like, okay, how many different flavors? And she says 16. And I'm like, interesting. And so each flavor is a different color, right? We've got like oatmeal, milk, and honey. So I'm sitting up there on my computer, like solving life's problems. Jeff's back here. And I'm like, hey, Jeff, I want to print Spinster 3 up with 3 different colors at one time. And he looked at me and I'm like, we can do it, right? So we had 18 colors, and you can see that the runs change. Like there's lavender. So based on how the paper sheet fits on the cylinder, we ended up running purple, pink, and light purple at the same time. So I give Jeff that idea, like we can figure it out, right? And what he ended up doing was printing 50,000 black and whites with no UPC and no ingredients. And then he went through and he did a plate change for all of the ingredients. And then 4 times. And then he went through and did plate changes for the colors, which was pretty awesome. So unfortunately, but fortunate for them, they're now so big that we can't print. We haven't printed for them in a year because now they're in the 200, 300,000 range. But it was such a sweet program, or such a sweet story. Like this is one of those things I wanted to put on the blog that we don't have. And I told you guys that we would do that today. These are all like blog stories that don't exist. So there's job number 1, which is an old school one. Job number 2 and 3 is kind of cool. We had a guy come to us and he had this, he's not on here. He had this cheesy business card that had a full color blend of a maple leaf, and it said autumn landscaping. And the printer wouldn't give him the steel rule die for the job. So, because he wanted it on thicker paper. So he came to us, we showed him a couple of jobs, and he was like, well, can you design me something cooler? And we were like, yeah. So we designed this to have photochromatic ink, which I had a sample of and couldn't find it. But basically when you went outside, this was going to change colors from white to red to yellow. That was budget prohibitive, but everything else wasn't. So we designed a leaf pattern, and then I had never done this before, but this is called an eagle die from Atlas. And it's not a steel rule die, it's a metal CNC rule. And this mounts to an aluminum base, just like a boxcar plate. And it allows us to die cut these crazy intricate die lines, which is sweet. So I thought you guys would get a kick out of this. So we designed and printed this. This guy's kind of like our dream client. And Comcast.net is his email. And so we're designing this beautiful card, and Jeff goes, what do you work at Comcast? And the guy got very angry with us, but now he's one of our best clients. But so we designed this crazy card, and then a day later, he's like, hey, I need something cheaper. So we ended up simplifying it and putting it on color plan, like different colors, which is kind of cool. We printed 3,000 of these, delivered them on a Friday. Saturday morning, he's like, I need 5,000 more. And which I cursed him because we'd already broke down the presses. But it's kind of a neat way where we took something that was crazy, made a little more idiot proof, and our client loves it. So he is a high-end landscaper, and he like drops these at open houses and gives them to realtors, and they give these cards for when you want this guy to do your lawn. But so that's his business card. Here's his freaking personal card. His name's Mark Robinson. Isn't that crazy? So we designed it not knowing if we could actually produce it, and then figured out it's a sculpted embossed just like the other one. And then steel roll die for the MR, which is kind of cool. So that's the examples of our design stuff. And then we just love partnering with people, whether it be local designers, people that have products. And this kind of, some of you guys have seen this on Instagram, but Burger and Fair are these designers from Boulder, Colorado. And they came to us and they wanted their business system to be on 10 different colors of color plan. And they have a very clean look. I mean, I love their cards. So it's a partner. So we got Lucian, who's fair, and you can see Burger is clear foil stamped. And then Todd Berger, fair's out. These dudes are clever. So we had a blast. Because if you look at this, I'm trying to not have shadows. The same plates were used on all of the pieces almost. So it was just plate changes and then a bunch of different color plan, which is cool. All right. Don't want to lose people. Couple other crazies. Our largest client is a grass-fed beef company, and we produce stuff that's offset printed for them. This is like a 7-year-old package we did. And those of you guys that have done offset printing realize the amount of waste you get. Like on this job, we would have 2 or 3 feet of waste. So I wanted to figure out a way to repurpose their stock. So we use their packaging for holiday cards. So we did a continuous line drawing of a cow, and then we do a tip-in of their card. And so I just love trying to think that way and spare stuff that would normally be recycled or thrown away. You know, like how can we reuse stuff? So their business cards, a bunch of other stuff is made out of their Arnold's, which is pretty cool. So this guy, we don't do a lot of weddings, but I got to show you this because it's so sick. So this designer came to us, wanted all the bells and whistles. He wanted his invite die cut on an angle, but he also wanted it gilded. And so we don't gild in-house. We gild with Edgeworks in Illinois. And I called Edgeworks and they're like, yeah, we can't do that. And I'm like, nonsense. You can gild on an edge. And not knowing, I mean, I just assumed like, come on, pushing them a little hard. And Jeff made a jig to cut this thing in our cutter. So it allowed us to cut the angle at a 45. And then they made a jig and gilded them, which is pretty sick. So that was kind of fun. And then, oh, there's Rick's note cards, which you'll probably see in full force tomorrow. And then last, those of you that were on here when we were on Spirit Day, where we were all showing our Hamilton bling, I designed this for Mancraft 8 years ago. Mancraft was a men's only art fair in Denver. I was one of the first of 5 participants, and it grew to over 100 people. So we designed a memory game where, you know, you flip all these over and then you go, and then, and it's a type specimen sheet. Rich Kegler helped me. And so whatever type I didn't have to print and proof, I used from the P22 collection. And this was years and years old. I made a bunch of them. We sold them at the craft fairs, but we don't really sell stuff. So Jeff Shepard put together our first ever online store. So if people do want this coronavirus memory game, we're shipping them through, Stephanie just sent the link, I think, which is kind of fun. And I can talk more about Mancraft later, but after 5 years strong of a men's only craft fair, too much competition, we got pushed out. And now we have all this stuff that we don't know what to do with. You can't see my face. So what do you think? you guys should we do the printing? Should I show you guys the cylinder? And then, here, I'm going to my other. Should I show you guys the cylinder? And then let's switch cameras.
That was amazing.
Oh, sorry. Oh, that's doing. Oh, there we go. Am I still echoing?
Yeah.
Mute one of your microphones.
I think I muted one and he muted the other. Sorry, Jason.
Hey, man, it's been like 23 minutes since we've had a problem, right? Sure.
That was great. Smooth.
108 things that I haven't read in the chat. All right.
Mostly heckles.
Yeah, I'm sure I can only, oh yeah. So I learned last night that the Zoom person can see everyone's chats. I don't know if that always is the case, but that's what I was told. So don't be talking shit. So, you know what? I realized that the cylinder with the backlit, oh, this will work better. You guys can probably see, well,
The screen you're presenting is a different screen than you're talking to.
Oh, sorry. Stephanie, can you pop me over?
Yes, I will pop over. Thank you for pointing that out.
I'm a geek, it's what I do.
Thank you. Is that better for everybody?
Yeah. Yeah, that works.
Thank you.
Sweet. So we took the max sheet size on the KSBA is 18 by 23. And so I have this wall of large type that we never get to use. So Rick and I concepted up like a big ass print. So that's what I got set up here. I did the Y and the U yesterday. We're gonna run the O's right now, or a couple O's right now. And then we're gonna pass it over to Rick and see what he comes up with tomorrow. Because I know a lot of you guys are not able to go in your press rooms. I'm very fortunate that like I'm two blocks away from here and we're staying busy, which is great. So I get to run over here and mess around, which is pretty cool. So who knows what this will look like tomorrow? We'll see. Ooh. Yeah, that's pretty good. Well, you're gonna get my butt. This is just an awesome machine. We don't get to use it as often as we like, but it's obviously powered. Pretend I pulled that sheet out of there so no one knows what happened earlier. And there we go. So any questions while I'm over here by the cylinder? Yeah.
Size?
18 by 23.
Nice.
I brought in the cylinder was crazy because Jeff and I both had windmill experience, which will get you printing on a cylinder. But oops, can you change back? Or I'll just print it. No, that's fine. All right, cool. When we started this thing, I was like, man, who are you gonna get to help us with this thing? And obviously the guy that I beat in the auction didn't want anything to do with us. So I made some calls And we found a pressman who worked at a big, one of the largest print shops in town. And he ran one of these for years. And they actually had one there that used to run the New York Times in Denver, which is pretty interesting. So he came here and showed us how to get it up and running. And it was a 70s. This is a late 70s model. And then we got this other guy to come, and he was like 6'3". His hands were like twice the size of mine. And he couldn't drive, so I had to pay like $70 to Uber him here. And for whatever reason, he couldn't drive. But he showed us how to use it. And when I first started printing, I would go through one of those little orange oil cans, the really tiny art ones of California wash, like in 6 months. And that dude went through like half a gallon of Cal Wash cleaning the press. And we were just like, what? And now we go through a lot more because we print a lot more. But he was like doing shit on the press, and he wouldn't tell us because it was like job security. And so then we actually brought George Graves out to help us, which was amazing. He was in Boston at the time. And George came out. He actually helped us run the first Pinster job because we really weren't comfortable with it. And that was sick. So that's like the whole job printing aspect of what Genghis Kern does. It's fun. And we get to, help people. A lot of it's education because people don't really know what they want. Like printing, you can go online and get a business card that's solid print, or you can use colored paper and print white foil. So, which is what we do. So, cool. I think that was kind of it. 12:43. That was it for my show and tell. Any other questions?
Before we get to questions, sorry, so I have to leave right at 2. I am putting trust into Jason that he will be the guide when I leave because I have another Zoom meeting. So I'm going to do that right now. That way we make sure that transfers over, and then you guys can do questions, and I will pop out when I need to pop out. Let's see. That happened for you now, Jason?
Yeah, I am the host now. That's
Sweet.
Very Westworldy.
When I have to sneak out, I will sneak out. I want to say thank you, everybody, for coming. I really am glad you're here. If you haven't joined for these portions of a ham hang yet, it's very open. You don't have to raise your hand. Most people just kind of chat or talk or unmute and ask your question. So anyway, thank you so much for joining. I'll sneak out a little later, but I'll stay as long as I can. So thank you, Jason. That was great.
How bad was the Blair Witch portion of the performance, guys?
I'm dizzy. I'm still dizzy, Jason.
Damn it.
Jason, it's Shradden. Were the floors that beautiful when you moved in?
They were, Jim. Because they were under linoleum. This place, man, I could tell stories about that. I should try and find the photos. I will while we're talking, but it was amazing. So this place had thousands. I have thousands of Hispanic vinyl from like 70 to 88. I mean, thousands of records sealed, 3 to 5 copies of each record. And so it was a record store and a furniture store. And he also sold CDs and tapes. And there was a calendar that said 2005, 2006. And when I talked to the man, he owned a furniture store out of here, and he started a furniture store. He wanted to advertise on a radio, and it was so expensive that he ended up starting a Spanish-speaking radio station in Denver, and it became huge. And then one day he just walked away from here, and it was dormant. I moved here in '99 in this neighborhood, and I drove by, and I was like, it had bars on the windows. I was like, that'd be a cool place to work. And here we are. It was really, really crazy. But so the floors were original, and that it's the same in the front. There was some bad water damage in here, but they fixed it. They just jacked up the floor. And like I said, we cut the 3 windows in, which was amazing. And we're very lucky, very blessed.
Hey, Jason, Is that bakery next door still there, or is it closed?
They are. No, they are. And they're doing social distancing. And there's a Mexican bakery next door that's open. There's a line out the door until 11 o'clock every night.
Jason, it's Chris Britton. I don't think I missed it. Did you tell the story about the addresses on the back of the typecases that we talked about when I was there?
Oh, Chris.
I think that would be really fascinating for everybody.
I did not. I will thank you, Chris. Rick, he's beating you to the punch.
Sorry, Rick.
So, that reminds me. So, I'm going to show you guys that one and start talking. So on Instagram, there's a thing called #TypecaseTreasures. And I don't know who came up with the name, but I've been using it. And I got this typecase on Craigslist. Some guy was selling type, and I was like, hey, do you have Hellenic Wide? And he's like, yes. And I was like, oh, I'll be right over. And he had like a whole rack of typecases, but they're the open kind, which I just can't stand. Oh, you guys can see it. I just can't stand those lips. And so I bought a bunch of type from him, including this 4-cap case, which just because it was unique. And I was like, yeah, I don't want any of the cases, dude. So I'm going to bring them all back. So I was bringing back the cases, or when I was getting the type out, I saw on the bottom of this case that it had notify, you guys can read it. It says, notify Louise Raymond, Delhi, Colorado, from the ATF. And I was like, notify her what? Did I just pied her type? Like, why would you ever put that on the bottom of a type case? And I put it on the APA newsletter, and one of the guys went, oh, you youngster, you don't remember the times when you could write somebody's name on something, wrap it up, put it on a train, and it would get there. So basically, Louise Raymond, when I found this, I Googled her and I couldn't find anything. And then 2 years later, when we did the Typecase Treasures thing, I found it. Louise Raymond was a woman in Delhi, Colorado, which is about 3 hours east of Pueblo, which is 3 hours south of here. So in the middle of frickin' nowhere. And in 1910, she was a editor and publisher of a Democratic newspaper in Delhi, Colorado. And I remember that I have that on Instagram somewhere way, way down into my feed. And it was so cool. And so since then, people have been giving me Typecase Treasures, like Cosman Pubco, Colorado Springs, Colorado. Look, this one has freaking stamps on it, like postage. And I've got another one that was from England in the war that Rob Barnes gave me. But so thanks, Chris. You know I love telling stories. That's awesome.
Jason, when you were showing the studio, there was a mask on the press and it said, "Will you marry me?"
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk about that? The answer is yes.
So I'm pretty sure I had the virus. Late February, early March, I had 102 fever and I was coaching my kid in hockey. And I went to the clinic and they gave us masks. And we had a bunch of wedding invites canceled. And I was like, hey, it'd be really funny to do this. And I was going to put it on Instagram. And Jeff was like, dude, I don't think you should do that. And I was like, and this was like a month ago, you know? So I didn't. And then I was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have put "Will you marry me?" It would have been, I don't know what we could have put, but that was the story, Brad. Not safe for, I don't know, probably too soon. And not joking at all the people that have had to cancel weddings. Like, it's amazing. We really don't do a lot of weddings, but it was a Friday and I was like, let's go set some type. So
I'd buy one.
Oh man.
You're already married.
I know, it was, yeah.
Oh, I meant Brad. Brad's already married. Why would he buy one?
Right. Well, I was like, well, now, can you imagine if he posted that now? Like, we just got told, I heard on the radio today, that you're not supposed to wear N95 masks. because the doctor should have them. And I'm like, shoot. So anyway, that would not go over well. But, one other thing, since we were over there, and those of you guys, you know Cellini, and you know of our like twofers. I don't know how many years ago it was. Jim Shradden was like, you need to do a book about twofers. And then I told that to Cellini, and one day a bunch of antique vellum showed up with purple or magenta on one side and cyan on the other, showing twofers. And I was like, oh shit, man, we're doing this. So Cellini had sent me a bunch of pages to make a book out of. And so I'm flipping through them. You guys can't see it. So
that's so much worse. There you go.
Yeah, I got it. I'm here all day. So we ended up a lot of the twofers at Hatch are letter twofers. I could see why, because they would need letters. Whereas the ones like Scott Moore actually gave me this one. It's of a dude drinking and throwing up. I don't know why he gave that to me, but on the back of a T. And then so mine are the yellow and blue, and Cellini's are magenta. And so here's the ampersand I showed you guys. Ampersand in the front. This one's cool. A lot of this type came from Ohio. This is a department store in Ohio, Beehive department store. So they carved that up. And then, so if people want these, I have a bunch left. You just have to send me something cool. So,
Me
Celine,
too.
thank you
I have
very
some
much. Thank you very much for getting me off my ass. I still want to do a real book because
Yes.
I have an actual map of Colorado from the 1870s that someone carved, and it's amazing. And so snail mail me something cool if you want one of these, and I'll snail mail it back to you.
You need your address.
Put your address in the chat.
Yeah, all right, I'll put it in chat. Oh, Stephanie's still here.
We weren't quite sure what the carving was because you couldn't quite see it, and we had no way to proof it. And we thought maybe it was a little on the pornographic side. And Aaron said, "Oh, that's got to go to Jason. That's got to go to Jason." So I'm glad it was not pornography. That would have disappointed me.
So Scott, you're a good plant too, man. Which you did it last week. I'm putting my address in here. Check this out. So, I presented at TypeCon, I don't know how many years ago, about twofers after Mary Mashburn and Allison's amazing presentation. But try and find it in here. It is recorded. I've never watched it, but one of my twofers. This is a old ass. It's really soft wood. Good story, Jason. Here's a pantograph pattern cut gone wrong. So they're cutting a V. They started with an N, and didn't like something.
Nice.
So, but must be in the age war. You guys, the payoff. This is like Geraldo's vault or Al Capone's vault. I swear the payoff's gonna be good. Of course, it's the last one I find, right? All right.
Jason, I can do this at home, man.
Yeah, all right. Well, gotta be here. Hold on, let me do one more. But so, in my TypeCon presentation, I found one with porn on it, and it was freaking hysterical. It's weird because you would think that I have it somewhere. But anyway, I have a twofer with porn on it. It'll be in the book.
Wow, that has to be the lamest thing ever.
Okay, all right.
Well, hey, what kind of beer is in the fridge, Jason?
Oh, that's a good question, dude. This is so crazy. Think I have like a sort drawer?
Porn, Jason.
That was my question.
I faded. Sorry, couldn't find it. I wasn't prepared. But what else? Any other of my friends that have heard my stories want to feed me another one?
Dude, just pass me a beer.
Okay.
The shop lights have a good story too.
Yep.
Can we just meet every Thursday at 2 and go through our type drawers just one at a time?
We could. That might not be safe for work. All right, I will.
What is it?
Of course.
Oh yeah, give it here. Give it here.
I can't see Rick.
Oh yeah, much better. Thanks.
Nice.
I was really hoping you guys had that set up so that Rick had one behind his computer that he could pull out.
Well, actually, he handed me a bottle of whiskey. Magic.
Oh! That is some David Blaine shit.
End scene.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this. As you know, I like telling stories. I'm sorry if the Blair Witch thing sucked, but I thought that would be a good way to do it.
It was great, Jason. Just
Got some cardboard old styles.
Yeah, exactly. I should find
Wait, I got cardboard old styles from Pete McCracken.
Nice. Look at Tony's rocking. How many people were on? I still want to go back and watch it and see if my Rick in the bathroom while we're on Zoom works.
Let me see that again. What did you do? Put blue tape?
Oh, shit, dude. I was laughing so hard. I can't believe we haven't lost anybody. What sucked was the light, if I would have thought about it. So if you get it the right angle. He's like the woman on the call, the video call. That's what I should have made my not speaking screen. Oh, man.
God.
Well,
Hey,
I hope
have you
everybody's
finished
doing.
Prince yet?
Yeah, you missed that. Yes, I did. I'll bring those by soon.
Yeah, just in the dead of night, you know, no one can see you. Wear a mask, carry gloves, and put it by my back door.
Done. That was fun. Yeah, I'm psyched. Like, I didn't even get to see everybody who's been in here, but I know a lot of you have been in my shop. Like, Chris chimed in with the double-sided thing. We did a workshop with Brad in here. There's a lot. I found some of those prints, actually. Brad, you weren't here for that workshop, actually, now that I think about it. The first one.
Not, yeah. It was inspired.
Yeah, this was, Brad sent us the blocks to make the background images. This one was sick, dude. Got them deep Ellen blues.
It was maybe my best workshop ever. Because I wasn't there.
This was Tom's, I think. Tom Parson did this one.
Wow.
And then this was mine, which was kind of fun.
I got like photographs from the workshop the whole day, and it made me really happy. I had just lost my grandfather.
That's right.
Like a couple days before the workshop, so I couldn't make it, and they did it instead, but it made me really happy.
Yeah, it was not the same without you here, but we tried hard. And then I'll show you guys. It's like having famous guests. Chris Fritton was just here right before the Corona showing, and he did an ink wipe workshop that benefited the depot, which if you don't know about the Letterpress Depot, go to letterpressdepot.com and get on the mailing list. So that's a museum that we're currently funding. We got to get electric in there, but it's an awesome project that a bunch of the guys on here today are very involved with. But Chris did set this, and then we did the workshop where he showed us how to do his ink wipes. And then left to his own devices, he did this badass print with that linoleum type.
Yeah, that's sort of Italian style almost type that we talked about looks really deco. So it makes kind of beautiful letter forms, that deconstruction, reconstruction of the letter form. So
Really cool. So, and something I would have never thought of. I love it.